Can you please make sure we're a co-host? He's in the room.
Warm greetings and welcome to today's edition of the African Leadership Group, the Nigerian Leadership Series. My name is Itwa Igodalo, and I'm really happy to be here today so that we can talk again about the issues that concern Nigeria and Africa as a whole. You know, a lot of people are getting a bit tired, they're getting a bit frustrated. They no longer want to discuss Nigeria, they don't want to discuss anything, almost to the extent that they think that some of us are wasting our time. But I am not of that view. I'm of the view that we have to keep the conversation going. We have to keep talking. We have to keep addressing ourselves. We have to keep fighting. We have to keep at it until it is kept at and until there's change. And then sometimes change does take time. It does take time. And we must be ready to give it the time. I think what is the problem with us is a lack of knowledge, a big lack of knowledge, a lot of ignorance, and then of course a lack of courage. Not very many people are courageous, and of course materialism of the highest extent. So we are here today again to discuss June 12th, which is tomorrow, June 12th. You know, and June 12th became a watershed in the history, political and leadership history of Nigeria. And we want to review our democratic practices thus far. But because of the quality and caliber of the person we're speaking with today, I'm going to use the opportunity to backtrack a little bit and ask a few questions. Some I may have asked before, but for the benefit of those who have not been on this program before, it might be worthy of reiteration. Our speaker today has become an icon and a firmament in Nigeria's political firmament and leadership structure. He studied geography and regional planning at the University of Lagos and always has been involved in student union activism. He obtained a master's in public administration from Columbia University, United States, and extremely passionate about Nigeria, the democratic struggles and the pro-democratic circles, and I think was a little bit involved in this business of June 12th. So maybe he will be able to explain it to us from his own perspective. In 2006, he founded an online investigative news platform dedicated, listen to this, dedicated to exposing corruption, human rights abuses, and governance failures, not just in Nigeria but across Africa. And it has become one of the continent's most influential citizen journalism outlets. He's also the founder of the African Action Congress 2018 and has been presidential candidate of that political party in 2019 and 2023. And I think he's also the political candidate, the presidential candidate for 2027. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me, I think for the second or third time on this platform, Omoyele Sowore. My brother, yeah, welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much, Pastor. Thank you for inviting me once again. I think it's our second time. Thank you for bringing me.
Thank you for coming. God bless you. You don't look very happy today. I hope all is well.
All is well, but we get very busy daily because of the situation of the country. So I was actually just now returning from a police station where I'm going to try to bail somebody out, which I do a lot of regularly here in Abuja because the police is constantly trying to get people arrested for all kinds of reasons, mostly frivolous reasons. So I make the rounds. I go to police stations, I go to courts, and I go on my own as well because I have quite a few of those cases that borders on, you know, fighting the government or speaking truth to power. So it's a crime in this country to wake up and say things are not right. This is my position, and the next moment, the police is at your door. In cases where the police is not invited, the DSS is invited to arrest you. The DSS is not involved, the army is abducting you. It is a quite interesting life we live here, but it's a life we've come to live. It's a life I've become very used to. So if I'm a little bit, if you think I look stressed out, I'm just explaining why. And it's very difficult to be happy in this country, honestly. It's not a happy place all the time.
I know. How did you get involved in activism in the first place? Maybe I should start by asking that question. What drove you in that direction?
Well, I'll say one is a experience as a child. When I was about 10 years old in my village, we had a terrible police invasion in Ondo State because some young people on Christmas Eve went and fought the police in the markets because they were coming for extortion. This extortion thing has been around for a long time. And they had the physical altercation, and the next evening, they raided the entire village all night long. And I was just so sad because here I was, my dad in the ceiling, sweating his life out, running away from police, my siblings and their mom being dragged on the ground. We could hear them, and then all kinds of abuse was visited in the village of less than 3,000 people. So there was a personal decision that, well, if I grow up, I would like to find out how to change things. Um, so that was number one. Then when I got to the university in those days, they were fighting against the World Bank loan that was going to be given to Nigeria at that time, and the IMF structural adjustment policies. So I had an early opportunity to meet with the likes of Falana, Gani Fawemi, Osage Obayiwana, Bamidele Aturu late now, Chima Obadi, a lot of them. And so I quickly became a part of the student movement that was fighting against not only the structural adjustment program, but also quickly part of the pro-democracy movement that was determined to drive the military government out of power. And it was Babangida's time. So we had quite a lot on our hands in those days.
Interesting. And the struggle has not ended. If anything, is transferred from one generation to the other. And even those who we thought were part of the struggle, we're not so sure if they were really part of the struggle. And here we are, struggling against the strugglers. I think that's what it seems to have transformed into.
It's important to say this that there are struggles that happen in the life of a country, and it just brings everybody together. We don't have any time to do background checks. We don't ask questions. It's just like you go to a protest, everybody that carries a placard is not necessarily an activist. In that group might be a police informant, a DSS person, someone who just has his own personal issues and wanted to exhale. So that was what the pro-democracy movement was like in those days. But some of our pro-democracy leaders were also very quick to warn that not everybody who was involved in that struggle or had interest in democracy. That some of them were just angry that they lost out of the struggle for power, and some of them just decided out of anger, disappointment, to join the pro-democracy struggle. And we've seen over time now that a bunch of them actually didn't believe in democracy, as they used to say it then. I have been someone who's been around a bunch of transitions. I was around when Babangida transitioned to Shonekon. I was around when Shonekon was kicked out and Abacha came in. And I was around when Abacha died and we were jubilating on the streets across Nigeria. And then Abubakar Abu Salami came, and I left the country because at that point in 1999, I could just tell that uh, the kind of characters that were showing up within the political class were the same people who were, so many of them were part of Abacha's five political parties that was going to make him their candidate. But Nigeria, the moment Abacha died, that same night, they started denying that they knew him before, and changed their tone and changed their attitude. And some of them said, well, like, we knew him, we're working with him, but the reason we're working with him was because if we didn't work with him, he would kill us. So, and all those people also became the people that you refer to as the political class. But I would note that there was a mistake we made. When I say we, I'm referring to the pro-democracy movement at that time. We should have rolled up our sleeves and form a major political party that would participate in the election. As a matter of fact, we had a political party at that time. Chief Gani Farimi had started the National Conscience Party by 1994, even though it was not recognized by the military regime of Abacha. So we could have just joined and run for office. As I keep saying to today, I think if Gani had run for office in 1999, he would have probably beaten Obasanjo. He was arguably one of the most popular Nigerians at that time, arguably. But the question was, would he have had enough money to fight them? Because all these bad politicians pulled resources together and they all lined up behind Obasanjo, Babangida, the military guys, and then they line up beside the so-called progressives, the Tinubu's of this world, and they're cool people, and helped them form and fund their own political party. But the pro-democracy movement people did not take it serious at that point. In fact, they decided not to participate because they said we could not trust the political class, I mean, the military to hand over power. So we needed to still be at the vanguard of watching over the military. And that was how we lost that golden moment, in my view. And I'm not saying it doesn't apply to one person. I was in the meeting where the decision was taken. But I decided that if we're not participating, I will just leave because I can't stay around and be part of what I saw was not going to work. So that's how I personally left Nigeria to the United States in 1999. A journey of 2 weeks then took me 20 years before I turned back.
20 years.
Well, yeah. So I was going to go for 2 weeks to a conference in Washington, D.C. And by the time I got there, things just kept happening. I was advised, like, if Nigeria is not what you want, why don't you just stay around and figure out things with yourself? And I stayed around, figured out things. You know, one day I went to look for a job, one day I went to look for school. I finished school when I got married. I have kids, and when I look at my watch, it was 20 years.
Wonderful. So, what were you doing for that 20 years? And after 20 years, what then made you come back? If I may ask. You are frozen. He's frozen.
So, Pastor, while we wait for him, what's your view on June 12th? What do you have to say about June 12th? Now that it has been made a public holiday, it has become the National um, Democracy Day.
I think it was just a. I don't understand. Well, let me.
Sorry, sorry. I think. Can you see me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So I know where we stopped was what I was doing for 20 years. I was engaged with Nigeria. I was so I went to school. I went to do a master's degree, and then when I got out of school, I tried to work for a few years, and then started Sahara Reporters. So it was my own way of re-engaging back home, and that was a lot of work. I it took whatever sleep I have left because I have to wake up when Nigerians wake up, which is about 2 a.m. US time, to update stories, to do investigative reporting. Because when I started, I was virtually alone doing Sahara Reporters in 2006 when it started. And then at the point, I also picked up a part-time job as a lecturer in two universities in New York. I also did travel extensively as a public speaker. And the reason I started thinking about home was that I looked at it and said to myself, so as somebody who is very engaged with Nigeria, I was writing a lot of stories about corruption, about bad governance. And I thought to myself, if we miss the opportunity in 1999, maybe it's time to re-engage, mobilize people again, and see if we can take power back from the people who we accidentally let uh, into power and who have now held everybody to ransom. Don't forget at this point, Chief Ganifa and me came back in 2003, ran for office. He didn't even go far. because the political class had consolidated. Femi Falana went to Ekiti to run for governor. No way. A lot of our comrades who were in the pro-democracy movement realized a bit too late. So I started thinking about coming back home to also mobilize and take over power because I've seen now the dark side of power. And I was convinced at that point that whatever was on ground in Nigeria was not democracy. If it was democracy, it was a democracy that I couldn't recognize. And so that was what led me to start heading back home gradually. It's not like I just came and said, okay, I didn't pick my teens and left. No. I started traveling back and forth, and in the process, I started to also domesticate Sahara reporters. I started to do training for young people to do what I do. And but it didn't take long before I saw the dirty underbelly of the Nigerian political system because they just came at me at once. I remember the place we hired. I mean, we rented to run Sahara reporters training. One day before we could move in there, somebody had come and physically beating me up. And before I could say Jack Robinson, police had come, arrested me, and said, "Oh, we've been looking for you." And I got there. It was the first time I knew it was a crime to report the truth in Nigeria. Of course, I know it's a crime to speak truth to power because I was expelled from the university for doing that and fighting. But the Nigerian democratic experiment was something I expected would have kind of advanced or matured to the point that free press wasn't a crime. Oh, but I found Nigeria to be completely lost. So I convinced myself, just like I did when I was 10 years old, that it is time to face this Federal Republic of Injustice once again. And the only way and the best way to go about it is to return home, as fully as I could, start a political movement. And eventually we started a political party in 2018, the African Action Congress. And I ran on that platform. By 2019, the system was ready for me fully. One night they came to my hotel, grabbed me, and sent me to Abuja on a flight on an air jet, or it's a true propeller engine jet that I later heard had crashed and killed many people. It belonged to the Nigerian Air Force. So they flew me down here, accusing me of trying to overthrow the government. 2019. And by the time I was done with the interrogation, explained to them what it was about, they had made up their minds. I spent 5 months in solitary confinement at the DSS headquarters in Abuja. And by the time I appeared in court, the judge made it very clear that it was a heinous crime. Femi Falana, of course, told her that this is a joke. She wouldn't listen to us. And by the time she granted me bail, she asked that I be restricted to Abuja, that I cannot travel beyond 25 square kilometers around Abuja. So we thought it was a joke, and we'll get over it. But that took me 5 years, 3 years in Abuja of inability to leave beyond her prescription, and another 5 years completely night. Because while they did that, they also seized my passport. I'm talking about under a supposedly democratic regime, under the Buhari regime. And nobody amongst the people, so that I wanted to come back to your question about the people who were fighting for democracy, because they were all in the government. Kayode Fayemi was in that government. Amici then were in the government. Festus Keyamo was in the government. These are some of the people who fought for democracy. Tinubu was the national leader of APC at that time. Supposedly, people fought for them. No one of them said a word about this enemy. Just to buttress your point that it is not everybody, or to buttress my point, that it's not everybody who says is fighting for democracy that believes in democracy. A lot of them were fighting for their own personal interests and pockets.
Well, what was your offense at that time? What did they say you did wrong in
Well,
2019?
initially, when they went to obtain a, a detention warrant from one Justice Taiwo, now retired, they claimed that I was engaging in terrorism and that they have found that I went to Dubai and picked up $100 million to come and wage war against the Buhari regime. They also tried to link me with Nnamdi Kanu that because we met in New York, that we had an agenda that I'll return home to come and help him destroy Nigeria before he returns to. So, but after 30 something days under that detention order, they came and changed the offense to treason in addition to money laundering. And when I asked them for the evidence of laundering, they said no, that I had transferred some money of my own to my account from the US to my account. You remember that fella type of money laundering, you are laundering your own money. So, and then they added that I cyberbullied the president. That was Buhari at that time. But Falana, who was very, very vast in this kind of legal work, asked him a simple question, said, are you willing to bring the president to court to testify how Sowore have bullied him? Considering that he's always going for air treatment, air infection in the UK. How did he hear? And of course, they came one day and said, we no longer want to charge you for cyberbullying. We don't want to charge you for money laundering anymore. And then they reduced it to treasonable felony. So that was what we battled with. The judge eventually was transferred out, and then COVID came. So there was no trial for about 2 years. But what they wanted to achieve, and which is what they do now, which is important to speak to Nigerians about, is that they know ab initio that they can't prosecute you because there was no offense. But what they do now is they will get the punishment in advance for an offense that they cannot prove. So by the time you are done with spending time in jail, not being able to meet your bail conditions, you've done. If I was sentenced for treasonable felony, the judge probably won't give me 5 years imprisonment. Knowing that it's a political offense, even if they give me 20 years, I'll be out in a year. By the time we go through the appeal, but they know that there's no offense. So one day they came and said that they no longer want to continue the case. But I've already spent 5 years in Nigeria without seeing my children, my wife. My mom had had stroke. At that point, they had shot and killed my brother when he was returning from university where he was in pharmacy at the age of 49 near Benin City. So they had done their worst. And guess who were the people behind this? Malami, who is now also facing trial. He was the Attorney General of the Federation to the Buhari regime at that time. But one thing I did not let them do to me was to let them shut me down or shut me up. So I kept my activism going. I kept organizing, I kept building the movement. I should add also, in addition to all of this, they also hijacked the political party that I ran under in 2019. A completely different guy took it over. While I was in detention, they went and changed the name. They didn't change the name of it, but they changed the leadership, the logo, everything. So when I got out of detention, I had to go to the Court of Appeal to fight to get the party back. So it took another 3 years to also get the party back. The goal was to decimate whatever I had on ground as a political party or a political movement, or that attempt to reawaken the consciousness of Nigerian people, having returned from America angry and ready. So they did their worst. And it's if you watch it in a movie, You probably won't believe what happened to me between 2019 and even now. And they still continue. I mean, last year alone, 2025, I was arrested 5 times and slammed with 5 different cyber crime charges, against the Inspector General of Police. I was arrested and charged for protesting for Nnamdi Kanu's release. I was arrested and charged again on behalf of the Inspector General of Police and his girlfriend. This just kept arresting and charging, and then they arrested me again and charged me for calling the president a criminal, and all these cases are being prosecuted as we speak. So it's not like they stopped, but what this tells us is that these characters in power never believed in democracy. And I'll tell you why. When I was a student leader, something was very instructive when I was a student leader. It was that Tinubu was a senator under Babangida's regime. And being a senator, he was part of a diarchy. Babangida was a military ruler. He was a civilian senator. They also had governors. And one thing I realized recently, upon thinking through this, that we should be careful sometimes when people are always complaining about the bad leader. Sometimes they come from a place of jealousy. They actually wanted to become those guys years ago. I think they were jealous of Babangida, his ability to corrupt people, his ability to use all kinds of subterfuge and confuse people with governance, his ability to bring on all kinds of different styles of pretending like there's governance, like he will say, he has a department in charge of employment that didn't employ anybody. They had what they call DFRI. They had MAMSA, which was mobilizing the public towards democratic transition that wasn't going to happen. They had, they had the People's Bank, which was a populist program to make people believe that you could get loans and become prosperous. And and then they kept asking people, tighten your belts, we're doing this for your future. And they weren't doing it for anybody. They were destroying everybody's future. But just like then, you could almost never find anybody who didn't believe Babangida. You could almost not find anybody. The few people who didn't believe Babangida were seen as crazy people. Gani was always told that he's a madman, and they arrested him several times. At the point they arrested him, when they wanted to release him, they took him to the Oni of Ife, so that he can warn him. And the Oni of Ife then called Gani's mom and said, look, don't say anything against it. We are the one who got you released, though. Of course, the day as Gani left the place, he went and called the press conference and started blasting Babangida again. It's the same thing we're having now. I can't believe that in 2026, under democratic governance, that people will be arrested for speaking out about things as terrible as they are in Nigeria. Yes. Or that in 2025, people will be arrested for writing something against the governor on the internet, what they call cybercrime. Or people will get arrested for saying that soldiers are not properly fed and you have to actually send soldiers to go and abduct the person. So these are unbelievable situations that we have found ourselves in Nigeria. But it's a product again of the kind of people who we have entrusted our democracy with or our future with. And that was the reason I came back home, largely, and I couldn't leave. Even when they gave me my passport, travel back in 2024, I kept coming back, because I had pending charges. I kept coming back to attend this charge. So each time they see me coming, they'll seize my passport. We'll fight at the airport, fight. They'll say they're trying to contact somebody. Then they'll give me back my passport. When I'm leaving, they'll seize my passport. We'll fight, 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 fight. When the plane is about to leave, they'll give me back my passport. So that's been my experience as a Nigerian citizen, as a person who has been a conscientious objector to bad governance in this country. So,
They must really take you so seriously, and you must instill some element of worry and anxiety for them to pay so much attention to you, especially since 2019. Maybe there's something
yes.
they know that a lot of people do not know. But I want to thank you and I want to appreciate you for your courage, your doggedness, what you've been through. I'm not sure many Nigerians can go through a little fraction of it. And that's partly why Nigeria is where it is. Nobody's ready to fight, 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 fight. Every day they seize this passport. 5 months in detention, solitary
Yeah.
confinement for
Yes.
something that is spurious and not substantiatable. I mean, it's enough to break somebody's spirit, you know. And I must commend you. You know, what keeps you going? What keeps
Well,
you
that's a
going?
difficult one
Just
to say because my response to this question keeps changing, because I cannot even explain what keeps me going. But I think sometimes we are all built differently. That part of me, that much I know, and we are built differently. And I think we are built for a purpose. Just like trees have a different purpose in the forest, just like fishes have a different purpose inside the ocean and the rivers and the streams. I think humans also have different purposes that they're here for. And because there are things that I have done that when I look back, I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And
crazy. That's
yeah,
crazy.
so but I'll somehow survive. And I'd also look at it from the point of planning life. Every time I plan my life a certain way, it doesn't happen that way. When I was in the university, my father left me with a message like every one of you, please go and come back. I have children to train here because my father had 21 kids total. By the time I was in the university, my father was still having children. So the only message he sends to me is like, please, so we are waiting for you, So they're already calculating my graduation
Your
year.
income.
So, and all yeah, thinking about what does the graduate earn when they get out. So, and so how we're going to share down the
The
value sharing.
final. Yeah.
Yeah. But never happened, So I thought I'll graduate in 1993. I'll just go find a job. Those days you could still even find a job
Find a job.
lightly.
Yeah.
They may not be the greatest jobs, but because I got admitted to the University on merit. I wrote JAM twice, and the admission letter came to my house. It's not like I didn't know anybody. Well, when I first wrote JAM, I tried to influence getting into a different department because I didn't meet the cutoff. That was the only time I went to the university to try and talk to who I know, and nobody could help me. Everybody kept saying, "Go and write JAM again." And I wrote it next time. The admission letter came to my house. I didn't need to talk to anybody. I just went, took my certificates. I went to register. My father gave me money that he could afford to the university. So the same thing applied as of 1992. By 1989, when we arrived at the University of Lagos, school fees was 45 naira, the entire school fee. Accommodation was 90 naira. My father couldn't even afford it. The teacher, it's just, he was able to get me 40 naira. I said, go to your uncles in Lagos and kept knocking doors. And then that's how I got into the university. So my plan was, I'm done in 4 years, 1993. I already planned out my life. Never happened. By 1992, first expulsion by Babangida. By by 1994, second expulsion. 1995, I fought them, went to NYC. The day I'm leaving NYC, DSS came. That they said they overheard me in a military mess, the Air Force mess, where I was staying with a doctor friend of mine as his quarter. That I want to overthrow the Abacha regime. They just carried me from there, the detention. So I spent 7 days, and they took me to DSS. DSS transferred me back to a guard room at the Air Force base in Yola. That was how they never gave me my NYC certificate. Got to Lagos, went to Falana, and we sued them. They came to court that they had transferred me, that extended my service by 6 months. I should go to Sokoto. I just said to them, "You guys are mad. I already concluded service. I'm not doing service twice." So I left the certificates with them. I never went back. Till today, I don't have an NYC certificate. And so I guess, like I said, I was built to serve the country perpetually as a youth corper. So still in service.
You are still doing useful, right?
I'm still in service.
My
That's
goodness, built to something. Yeah,
part of
but
my service.
let's let's look at this issue of June 12. What really is
Yes.
your recollection of June 12? What role did you play? What does June 12 really represent to us as Nigerians from your own perspective?
Yes. I will speak about the role I played, and this, the role, I would say we, because we were members of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, then I was University of Lagos Student Union. In fact, we took a position against the election. Not that we didn't want the election to happen, but we said we will not participate because we don't trust that Babangida will hand over. Don't forget at that point he had been shifting the dates from 1990 to 1991, 1991 to 1992. Then I think by 1992 he created two political parties. He said one to the left, one to the right. The one to the left is Social Democratic Party, SDP. The one to the right is NRC, National Republican Convention. Bamangida created and asked politicians to flood into them. They joined. He even built party headquarters in every local government and every state. So we said this is not part of the tenets of democracy. This is not public participation. This is one man controlling the process. So we didn't join. So they went and did their convention in Jos. And I think, I don't know where the NRC had their own, and Abiola became the candidate of the SDP. Don't forget now, we hate Abiola with passion because of Fela. So, that's a song we sing all the time, ITT, International Tif. So producing a candidate like that we felt was too close to Babangida and wasn't representative democracy in our view. So we stayed away from the election. So election day came, we were all in the university, some people voted, but we didn't disrupt the election. We just said we're not participating. And this election was the most peaceful observed in the country. International observers, the people, I think the only place the election didn't hold was Ogoniland. Ken Saro-Wiwa was fighting for against environmental degradation of Ogoniland. So there were some skirmishes in Ogoniland. But across the country, peaceful election. They had what they call option A4 then, where you just queued up behind your candidate and they counted right there and the result is immediate. There was no need for IRF. It was immediate. Everybody could see it and they wrote it. So by evening, everybody was convinced that Abiola won the election. And we said to everybody, well, good luck to them. It's their election. One of their friends won. A few days, we were waiting for announcement of the result of the election. No announcement. What's happening? We started hearing that there was some court order because there was some people who had gone to court an evening before the election to say that election should not hold. But there was a decree that says that no court can stop the election. So we waited June 13, June 14, I think around June 17 or thereabouts. Babangida just came on TV, disheveled, it was announced that the election did not meet the standards that was expected. It was not free and it was not fair. And as a result, the elections were cancelled. Don't forget now that by this point, he had already set up what I said was a diarchy. There were civilian governors and senators. That was where Tinubu was a senator then. And we just we were just on campus and said, this is not going to happen. That's how I got involved. We started mobilizing that night immediately. Like, I know you know, this is self-inflicted injury, and we should go after the military regime. So that's how we got involved, and that took me to being the leader of most of the protests in Lagos, and we protested virtually every day. We had virtual boycotts, and then one day we decided to go and visit Abiola at home. And when we walked into his living room, massive living room, it's still big today if you get there. He had all these big men, his politicians, because even the people who were against him, he was trying to please him. I think Abiola is a people's pleaser. So I walked into the living room and I see all these people who we knew were part of the traitors. And I said to Chief Abiola, I was a young person, what are you doing with these people? We're killing ourselves on the outside, trying to help you revalidate your election result. You're here sitting with all these enemies of the people. Abiola said, no, 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 please don't say that. We want to govern the country, government of national unity. Looked around, he had a duffel bag filled with money. So, he just brought out money and gave to me. It's like, student leader, you don't keep fighting. So I told him, I said, Chief, do you think I came here to collect money? So I pushed his money back to him. Chief Enahoro was in the room. Chief Enahoro said, Chief, this is what I was telling you before. That all these people that are sitting here, and you look at all of them, they were clutching their own bags of money, and they distributed money. They've been doing this money politics forever. So I think an attempt to just make everything not become a crisis inside he stood up and escorted me and Chief Enahoro. And then outside was John Momo, who is the proprietor of Channels TV, was waiting to interview him. And Abiola then approached Abiola and Abiola interviewed him. I'm explaining the source of the video where I was standing behind him at the age of 22. So I was there. I was just nodding away as if to tell him, don't say anything different because we need to fight this fight. So that was my first experience with both the June 12 struggle and the politicians who were sabotaging it. And it was as if I was just being clairvoyant. Everything I said, the people in that room on that day, almost all of them sold Abiola out. Almost all of them. So, but afterwards, he had to leave the country. I think he left for France. And when he came back, we also met him at the airport. But the more we tried to get close to him to advise him on the right course of action, the more the people around him also shielded him away from us. Now they had taken over his life, including Tinubu. They were the ones who arranged for him to go and declare himself at Ekwetedo as president, and shortly after that, he got arrested. And that was how Abiola disappeared from Nigeria, but not public consciousness. But that experience, like you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, was a watershed moment. And the reason you will know how powerful it is in the consciousness of Nigerian public is that there is no government that hasn't come since June 12 that has not tried to confine or consign June 12 to the dustbin of history. It has never worked. It hasn't. When Babangida was driven out of power, Shonekon, by the way, they asked for a new election after the election, after June 12 was cancelled. They instructed Shonekon to hold a fresh election, but said that Abiola and Tofa cannot participate in the election. So they started registering people for the election. We had to go to Mushin to go and disrupt the registration physically. We distributed ourselves around. If we see you registering for an election, we just threw the whole thing away. As students around Nigeria in those days. So every one of them tried to kill Junta, Abacha in particular, and he was going to consolidate the death of Junta by becoming president, and he died. And then they realized it's not possible, and they started trying to bring it back. Now is a democracy day, but it was a watershed moment in Nigeria's history, and I think had it not been for June 12th, it's possible that we'll still be under military rule, or some kind of arrangement where Babangida would have continued as president of Nigeria, without uniform for 8 years, and he would have handed over to, probably he would have just stayed in power like the guy in Cameroon. Even on a wheelchair, he will continue. It's possible that he wanted to become the lifetime president of Nigeria. Who knows? Who knows?
So, now we are here in this state of democratic development and things like that. You did mention that we've done a few things wrong in that when democracy was starting again in 1999, some of us who should have gotten involved didn't. We stayed behind and all that. Patutomi has also expressed a similar sentiment, and a few other people like that. I've heard them say so.
Interestingly, Abakova was saying that we should not abandon it. I can't forget Lisa Abakova. He was saying, please, whatever happens, guys, let's go and fight these people. The Nigerian people still respect us now. They can trust us. Let's go and fight for power. Whatever we gain, we use that to consolidate our reach to the people and show to the people that we can govern differently. But the hot heads in the house said, no, no, this is it would amount to selling out if we go and participate in a military organized transition program. That was how that was blown apart.
Big mistake. So what can we do now, or what can the average Nigerian do? What can Nigeria do? How can we change the political landscape, the money politics, the corruption, the whole thing that we're finding ourselves in, where people are not really feeling the effect of governance? Is there any hope at all? That's my first question. My second question
The-
is, you have
yeah.
again put yourself forward. You have again put
Go
yourself
ahead.
forward to run for office. Yeah. What is the strategy? How are you going to win? And what's your plan? And what really are you thinking? So, if you can take those two questions, I see quite a lot of hands are up.
Yeah,
They
I'm
really
sure a
want
lot
to
of hands
ask
are
you
up.
questions, and I will
Yeah,
allow them.
I have to be the first to admit here that the the level of activism or engagement that saw us through the end of military rule cannot match the situation now. What I'm trying to say is that it was even easier to fight the military than it is to fight the current rod end system. So I think what Nigerians haven't done is that Nigerians haven't come to the realization that the rot and the problem is deeper than they are confronting it. I run for election. This is my third time running for election. But I know that you can't win a free and fair election in Nigeria because there's nobody who is willing to organize a free and fair election. What the political class had discovered was they learned where the military failed. They learned where they failed initially. They looked at the time they were not as courageous as they are now, or as bold and criminally minded as they are now. And they learned from that. And upon learning from that, they have jettisoned any form of pretense regarding their brazenness or the impunity that has become part of how they run the system. And under the military, you are dealing with a few guys, you know, maybe, who all the military administrators were, who the garrison commanders were. Under the civilian, criminally minded or organized and operated regime that we have now, there's just too many people, too many operators and operatives who are so unafraid of the public that they don't care. See, all this conversation we are having that, we want elections to be free and fair, we go and demonstrate in front of the National Assembly. They don't see it, they don't care about it, it doesn't move them. So, Nigeria, therefore, or Nigerians, therefore, upon understanding this, and I hope they understand it, will definitely have to understand that the strategy we have to up the game. And that was why when I came back in 2019, after the election, I made it very clear that our problems cannot have a solution that is called reforms. You can't reform the unreformable because the people who you are proposing reforms to cannot be reformed as a people. They have passed the stage. The Nigerian political situation has passed the stage of reformation. And that was why I did propose a revolution. But now that revolution has an opportunity to be expressed through the ballot or at the barricades. But even at the ballot, it must be handled as if we are the barricades. And if at the barricades, it must be handled even with more intensity. But to think that somehow these guys will change their minds, they'll be nice, they will drop power on the streets for us, like the military practically did, it's not going to happen. And this is a message that had resonated with a lot of people who initially doubted me when I came back to discuss revolution now, who are now saying, we wish we went for revolution. Because ultimately, it has to be a revolution. It has to be a revolution. We can't escape it.
A revolution.
Yes.
So there's no choice of a democratic solution to where we are now, in your own opinion.
Well, there's a choice, there's a democratic solution only if you are practicing democracy. But we are not practicing democracy anymore. These people are no longer practicing democracy. We are the ones that have expectations of democratic rule. Don't let me say expectation. We have an illusion of democracy, but there's no democracy. There's nobody practicing democracy. Tinubu is not practicing democracy. The National Assembly is not engaging in democracy. The tenets of democracy are dead as far as Nigeria is concerned. So to have a reset, there has to be a complete makeover.
Right. So, you're running for election. What's
Yes.
your strategy? What are you planning? How are you planning to win? And I'll just leave off here. Yele, I think you are going to have to come back because there's still a few things we must dig into that we don't have enough time on the platform on this session. So I will just see what other time you can give us in the next couple of weeks where we can actually dig into a few other things. But for now, let me allow some other people to ask questions and all that and take advantage of your presence here. Or maybe you and I would have a private meeting, I don't know. But let me just
No problem.
ask you. Because I'm really, really, anyway, I'm really, really concerned about Nigeria. So, are you
All of us are.
planning? Some people couldn't care less. Let me be honest with you. Some
Yeah.
people, they sound, they make the noises, they talk and all that. when you scratch a bit deeper, you look a bit deeper, they don't, they're still looking for number one. But nonetheless, I think Nigeria is a great country. That's what I was telling some people. I said Nigeria is like a country where there's a lot of money inside a room. There's a lot of money inside the room, and somehow the room has been locked. Maybe the key is broken, and then everybody is fighting in the corridor, looking up and down, going here and there, because from time to time some people throw some oranges in that corridor. So some people
Yeah.
grab all the oranges and run away. The others are starving. But the room where the money is, nobody is even looking there because people are just fighting each other on some silly oranges that are outside, and some people, because they have advantage of position or power or whatever it is, they grab all the oranges, they run away. The children are starving in one this thing, and the whole place is left abandoned. And people are not facing the issues that we should face. But how are you working towards winning this election? What's your plan? Or at least as much as you can tell us. I know some of it you don't want to reveal publicly. But how
Well,
is it
I,
going?
I was going to say that, you know, it is not something you reveal to the public, but here is my very simple answer to that. It is the choice of the Nigerian people, right, to choose their leaders. Uh, and the job I have is to present myself to the Nigerian people as an alternative to what has been holding them by their jugular, this political class in the country. And I've done everything necessary on my part to make that happen. I have told the ballot uh, route. And I would also say here that in towing the ballot route, it is also giving the political class an opportunity to peacefully respect themselves and let Nigerians transit to a better life. Uh, but in case they don't, the, the people also have a right to vote the other way. Uh, Voting requires using the ballot thumbprinting with your thumb. That's the oldest way of voting in the world. But there's also a voting that requires people putting boots on the ground and stepping out en masse. And that in itself is also democracy, because now they'll be looking for the government of the people that will be run by the people, not a government that is hijacked by morons, which has been the experience of the people of Nigeria. I don't know if you heard me say before, Pastor, that the Nigerian democracy is what I describe as a morontocracy. It's government of morons, by morons, and for morons. This has been my experience, and nobody can say that more than myself, because I meet them face to face all the time. I know how they think, I know how they work, and I know that this is not going to happen. It's not going to be a pushover. So anybody who wants to have a transition to a better life or a different future from the one we have now have to be prepared for everything. And you know that this was my position even in 2023 when I met at your church. You brought all or some of us presidential candidates to the church, and you had to leave that day. And I said to everybody who was seated that you're not just going to get this on the platter of gold. You can finish your election, and when it is done, the person who's counting the votes will tell you that it's not the person you voted for that won the election. So now, what do you do? Everybody was like, no, God will do it. And I said, I remember your church on that day, that conversation, God don't handle elections. God got some more serious job to do than to be helping you manage your elections. But uh, so the point that I say is that it's way more deeper than just how do you want to win. I think the question should be, how are we going to win this and win it for good? And this involves me and you, regardless of our political partisan differences.
Thank you so much, Yele. It's always a joy and a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your resource, your struggle, your eloquence, and things like that. I think there's so many hands up, so I'm going to hand over to my co-host Jumoke and Sonny, so that they can ask their own questions and then take us through the Q and A. Thank you very much, and
Thanks for having me, and I'll be glad to come back whenever you have more time. I have more time too.
okay, all right,
Yeah,
thank you,
thank you.
All right,
Sonny.
thank you, Pastor. Yeah, Omoyele, well done. Thank you. Thanks for being with us. There are quite a few hands, and the way we normally do it is we would take like 3 questions together and then ask you to kindly note them, and we'll note them for you as well. And then we'll probably ask. But just before I take those questions, speaking politics now, we see how passionate you are. You're a very dogged person. Realistically, some have said if we want to change the status quo, and I know you have your quarrel with so many of the other candidates,
Yes.
Nigerians have sort of like in the last election, coalesced behind one popular candidate and who seem to have given a push. And some have said, Omoyole, why not speak to this man? And we're not saying he will be there forever. If somebody doesn't do what they want, 4 years will remove him. Why not come together with other people, even if you are not the presidential candidate, to see how we can, move ahead and get forward? But you have been very vocal and vociferous about all these other people, and it's almost obvious that you can't do it on your own. So how do you want to wrestle power from the oppressors, or how do you think we can get power?
The worst people you can go to battle with against
No.
any form of oppressors are cowards. And
Yes.
yes, and there is an Argentine poet, I forgot his name now, who he has a popular saying that his father went to war and he defeated a lot of people. But he said when he got back home, he was more afraid of cowards, whom he referred to as idiots. And he said, why are you afraid of cowards? You fought, wars. He said, in their like numbers, they can elect a president. And that's what happened, in my view, in 2023. And I said it. In fact, when I came to Pastor Itua Daru's church, we almost fought at the place. Because some people, this same thing you repeated was repeated to me. God, in fact, they didn't say that some people, they said God has chosen a candidate. And I asked them who the candidate was. They mentioned your candidate. I don't want to, I don't want to go there now, but we all know who you are talking about. And I told them, in fact, I quoted the Bible on that day, I think the book of Samuel, that even as powerful and big as God was, there was a time he allowed men to choose their kings. And we cannot overlook the fact that in the next line of uh, fight, I can't go to people who already knew if we are defeated, they will run away, And I have an understanding of these people. I know their background. And some of you may not know them, but some of you know them, but you prefer them because for other parochial or external reasons. And if you have been through 2023, why are you still preaching the same failed system? I don't even want to talk about their past. In 2023, did you all not claim that you won the election? Your person won the election. What stopped you from fighting for it? Even Abiola, as rich as he was, he fought. They took his election. He fought. Even though he may not have become president, he was named president at a point. Everything that a president deserves, they gave it to him. They named streets after him. I won't be surprised that if Abiola family members are collecting presidential kind of emolument. I don't know if it's the case. June 12 has become a public holiday. Anybody, in my view, who is not willing to make the sacrifice, including death, for their convictions, don't ever recommend them to me again. But in case you won't change your mind, I am not at liberty to be part of the deceit and the delusion that you have a candidate that can do jack, and you want me to line up behind them when I can do a better job of being a candidate, winning the election. If you rig me out, you are not going to take the price. It's not happening in my lifetime. So can we just move on and be realistic now about finding candidates who not only possess the character, the preparedness, the exposure, the vision, and the understanding of the country, and who also possess the most important characteristics of what the candidate needs in 2027: courage, unmatched courage. Because you're not going to take power from these guys just by being, you know, a
Okay.
potato cooked that they can mash together and call it mashed potato.
All right. Thanks very much for your response. There are quite a lot of hands. Let me allow the people, you know, um, chime in their question. So I'll take Tio Odunlami first, then I'll take Boniface Chizia, then I will take somebody called iPad. So Tio, I've asked you to unmute. Please be very brief. We have quite a lot of hands. Just go straight to the question, and or if it's a comment, go ahead. So go ahead, Tio.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
I'm Theo Odunlami, and I'm sure Sowore met me many years back when he first came down to the UK. I've never ever been disappointed in this man. I I donated towards his cause then because when he came out, I could see the genuineness in him. So far, he's been consistently consistent to date. Here is a man started his own party. He stuck to his gun. This is the kind of person I'm ready to line up with. If it means coming, and I want us to understand one thing. We are at war. Let's be realistic about this. This is not going to happen just like that. And this is what we
Okay.
have to come to understand. And we all have to engage. It's not about what do you do as Sowore. If Sowore gets to power today, Sowore can appoint 10,000 people to help him. So what do you think is going to happen? The important thing is it's going to happen with a tsunami, which is what he is calling this revolution now. Because the tsunami is such that the whole of Nigerians' eyes are now opened and they say, this is who we want. Do you realize that nobody can rig that type of election? And that's where we have to get to. So it's not up to Sowore alone. In my opinion, it's everybody's job to do. And this
All right.
is
Thank you.
what it takes for us to win this election for Trinidad. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you very much. Okay, Boniface Chizia, I think you have
Yes,
unmuted.
yes, I
Yeah.
have. Yes, thank you
Okay,
very
go
much.
ahead, sir. Yeah.
Thank you, Sowore. Well, I don't think we've met, but we are very proud of what you do. We are very proud. I think that you come across as somebody who is quite unique in this environment. But I say to myself, that on a personal level, how does your wife and children take your activism? Has any of them followed your footsteps? And then the other matter is a bit of advice. Why didn't you try, say, running for the Senate or something like that? Because becoming the president of this nation is a tall order. It's a place is full of wolves. And the amount of money you have to spend to get there, I don't know. We'll not be able to correct that in the near term. So, can we have your comments on those? But I
All
think you are
right.
doing very well. We're
Well,
very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yes.
regarding my wife and children,
Yes.
I usually make a joke about my wife that she didn't do her Google search very well before she got married to me. Maybe she would have taken a different decision. As regards my children, I'm just hoping that they're proud of what I do, and but they have a right to choose what they do in life. It's their right. I have done the best I can and continue to do the best I can for my country and homeland. And I'm sure they see what I do, and I'm sure it will positively impact them. My children already attend protests in the US. My daughter was part of Black Lives Matter even when I was in Nigeria. So they're already going there. But am I going to put the burden on them that you must exactly be like Sowore? Probably not. But I hope they do the kind of positive work I do in life. With regards to your question about why don't you go for Senate? If I ask you, do you know your senator? I'm sure you probably don't know who your senator is because they are not important in your life. The most important position that can change Nigeria, it's the presidency of Nigeria. And that's where I've always put the premium on in contesting. And I ask you again, if I'm senator, who is going to be your president? I know you have an answer. But if you have an answer and you have a candidate, put out your candidates. Let your candidates go and contest. Let me go and contest. Yeah. But this idea that somebody who is 56 years old, exposed, well-read, traveled, can hold his own against anyone, must constantly be talked down upon, go to Senate, go to local government chairman. I think it's a problem of a complex on the part of our people. I think we have in embedded in our DNA inferiority complex, because I know a lot of presidents who their leaders don't even have my kind of background and exposure. They're not even third world countries, talking about, some G10 countries, because when you're looking for a president, you're not looking for an old man with old ideas. Even if the person is old, they must have very dynamic ideas on how to fix the country. So if the idea is to get a good president, you got one talking to you now. I'm sure the other ones that you might recommend, they would never come here because they can't hold a 5 minute conversation without falling apart. So let's take it from there, sir. Let's
All right.
think effectively and elect people who are superb in their ideas, in their intellect, and who can run the country properly. May I recommend that you run too for president because you speak so well?
All right, Sowore. Thanks very much for that response. Let me take Tayo. Tayo, iPad, please go ahead and ask your question and make your comment.
Thanks for the opportunity, Pastor Itua and Sonny. Mr. Sowore, my name is Badejoko Tayo. I must commend you for your conviction, your courage, and more importantly, your consistency over the years. I'm sure you've had that over the time. And scriptures talk about nobody takes certain things upon themselves, and you alluded to that as well, except the God called them. So you're actually fulfilling purpose, and can we just pray and continue to encourage you. Two things real quick. You made a very important point where you said that, democracy in Nigeria is a moronic venture. And as such, to expect to have democratic change through genuine democracy is next to impossible. Bishop Peter can attest to that as well. Some of the things that happen in Edo State, that is when you try to play fear with this system, with the way the system is so corrupt, it's impossible to do, next to impossible. And that is why I'll probably say more people are, not that they're not interested, but they are just, they're just, what's the point? Like pouring water into an empty basket. Because, even when you win, they will tell you didn't win because they can come up with this thing. And you have proposed a revolution. So my question is this: what kind of revolution are we talking about, especially when you are dealing with a disenfranchised people? Nigerians have been so disenfranchised that they don't even know who they are anymore. They don't even know what they want. And then secondly, in terms of history and education, I mean, you definitely have a very good pedigree. But I'm not sure how much you interact with student union leaders now, or what they do. I don't, because, I don't live there. But my point is the quality or the caliber of, student leaders we had then. Do we still have that? How much do they have the history? And, because the revolution without people is just a leader taking a stroll. And Nigerians, whether with education lack of history, lack of even a vision of where we are going. Everybody's all about packaging and money and things like that, even for the youth. And it's a deliberate system to make everybody dumb down. So what kind of revolution can you effectively mobilize in that kind of environment? That's my question or comment. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Let me take Damola Alade Komo. Yeah. Well, Omoyele, I hope you got that question and comment.
Yes, the question is centered around
No.
what
Okay,
kind of
let Damola just put in his question so that we can take more. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much. Great outing, Mr. Sowore. Thank you very much for your struggle for Nigeria. We really, really appreciate you. On a light note, before my question, when you use that moronic term, by the morons for the morons, I look at the expression of Pastor Igodalo's face. This guy is too handsome, too intelligent to be a moron. You can all be moron. But on a like note, I know you don't mean that 240 million Nigerians are all morons. We have
Well, no,
condemned.
I'm referring to the operatives now, not Nigerians.
Okay. So, because that term, as you know, in governance means quite a lot. But directly to my question,
Yes.
we have condemned every Nigerian leader from Azikiwe to Ironsi to go on up to Tinubu. My fear is that when we become great-grandparents, we're going to be condemning our great-grandchildren because we have condemned from Azikiwe to Tinubu. As a fellow patriot, I ask, where is the line between holding power to account and the generational condemnation that was of investors and then discourages our children and the lower generation, the upcoming generation, for not seeing anything good about this country? It was of,
thank you.
Sorry, just one more. Can we not be specific and constructive on the issues, naming the actual culprits and the actual fixes, rather than condemning all governments and a whole nation? And what are you yourself building that you want to be judged by? But thank you so much for your works for our nation. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you very much. Sorry, Shori. Let me just take Afolabi Ajida on the last person before you take on those questions.
Good evening,
Afolabi,
everybody.
go ahead.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for this. It's called INEC, and the operative word I always feel is independent. As long as the president continues to pick the chairman of INEC, we will truth be told, we will really not have an independent. My question to you is, how do you feel we can remove the president from picking the chairman and be able to pick an independent INEC chairman? What procedures do you feel we should go through? And my second question is, we're very much heading towards a one-party state. How do you feel that we can stop this and go to a true multi-party opposition country? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Ms. Shore, just take a deep at those three comments and questions. If you still remember them. If you don't, we can remind you.
No, I remember them. I remember that somebody was saying, what kind of revolution do we have, or how's it going to happen? And he also alluded to the fact that the operatives that will make a revolution happen are no longer at their duty posts. He mentioned students. And I wanted to say that what brings about the revolution are certain objective conditions. And everybody who read a little bit of history about the French Revolution discovered that So there's been a lot of pent-up anger against the government. It took 10 years before one day or a moment, the spark was scarcity of bread. And when you study revolutions that have happened in several other countries, you know that we have met all the conditions already that will make a revolution happen. What has not happened are the operatives that will make them happen. It is social consciousness. The objective conditions are all over the place. And how is the revolution going to happen? It's for all the people of the country to reject the political, the economic, and cultural and social order that has enslaved them and that pauperized them, that has destroyed their opportunities and chances at making it in life and having a great life, and saying enough is enough, and for everybody to move at once. Most people have asked, oh, are you going to kill everybody on the day of the revolution? No, I don't want to kill anybody. But I think that if the people move in their large numbers, the people who are holding them to ransom can abandon their post and run away. And we have a brand new system by way of creating communities of action of people to say, look, we know what can be done and what should be done. There's nobody here who doesn't know that Nigeria can be run differently. You know, the only problem is that not enough people have committed to that process of change. That is why we are still asking ourselves questions. The person who is being held by terrorists or bandits in the bush doesn't have he's not thinking about, oh, will the revolution come? Because if there's a revolution today, the terrorists themselves will release a lot of people they are holding to ransom. Everybody that's in need of freedom that want to enjoy liberation of this country should be thinking about how we join hands together and peacefully just ease out. And that's why I said the options are both sides. We can have a massive ballot revolution where everybody goes to the poll, vote for the right candidate who they are convinced is the best, and stick with that with election results. And we can also do it by the barricades, where we say, look, we just can't breathe anymore. We need a total change in our lives. So that's how we have described it, and that's how I have always explained it to people. But what I find very interesting is that I rarely meet anybody who doesn't believe that there's a solution. The only problem is if there are enough people who want to take the risk. And I think that's where I'm different. I remember in 2019 when we said we want to do revolution, I was like, you are crazy. Revolution. Before we knew it, Google was telling us that over 5 million Nigerians went and searched on Google the meaning of revolution. If 5 million people had come out on that day, we'll have a different country now. Then the whole thing about condemning the whole generation is factual. I'm not just condemning generations because I love condemning them. I'm just giving you facts about how you got here. Any country or people without history, you know, and proper teaching and repetition of that history. I'm not talking about repeating it because what is happening to us is that history is repeating itself, but we are not learning from history. Can never make progress. So if you find yourself the way things are now, and you don't let people know that these are the mistakes Nigeria made that made us not to make progress, that the countries we started with are doing better than us. And without telling them that these are the people who made the mistakes. These are the people who, when they are supposed to apply brakes, they went and pressed the throttle. It is just part of how you teach society how not to repeat mistakes. So this idea that I should go and be prostrating for the people who destroyed Nigeria because I want to sound different is not going to happen. I hope more people will also understand that part of our problem is that we respect those who don't deserve respect. We don't want to talk. We don't want to mention names. They used to accuse me that when I was working as Sarah Reporters and running that I was running down the country when I mentioned corruption. Now, corruption has run the entire country down. The people you said I should not mention their names, they are arresting you now, even when you have not mentioned their names. They have gone to Facebook to be picking people. They have gone to TikTok to be picking people because you have emboldened them by not shaming them. And as Africans, and this is very important, as Africans, our first line of justice culturally is, shaming thieves. Africans are the ones who started shaming thieves. If somebody steals in any village, the first thing Africans do is to call him and tell everybody he stole. He stole. In some places, they will even do certain rituals so that your children and the generation yet on board will not steal again. It is because we fail to shame those who have been ruining our lives that they became more emboldened and their generation have become so bold that they are enslaving you. So how do we get to the president to stop appointing INEC chairman? You can't do that except you change the Nigerian constitution. And it's one of my promises that I made that if I become president today, one of the things that is going down is the Nigerian constitution. I'm taking that very fraudulent document down and letting the Nigerian people make another constitution, because the 1999 constitution was never made by the Nigerian people. It was a fraudulent document imposed by the military of the Nigerian people. And they used it ever since then to write, roughshod over you and do whatever they want with you. So it has to be in the document called the Constitution. I agree completely. There's no way the president is going to appoint INEC chairman. Not only does the Nigerian president appoint INEC chairman, he appoints even the state electoral commissioners. They are all appointed by the president. How do you expect to defeat such a person in an election when it is associated? He also appoints the federal commissioners that sits with the chairman of INEC. He's the only one. And then the president then appoints the chief justices of the justices of the Supreme Court. He appoints the justices of the Court of Appeal. He appoints the justices of the Federal High Court. And you expect to defeat him in court or defeat him with INEC. Brothers and sisters, we have got a long way to go, but we all have a duty to cut this long journey short by doing the needful. That's my position. And somebody mentioned we have a one-party state. This one is something that is between those who are also practicing the party system. There are 21 political parties. There used to be 79 or 81 political parties. I was part of them. And I tell you, there are no political parties in Nigeria. And when you don't build real political parties, it's difficult for you to do what political parties do. Nigerian politicians don't believe in political parties. They believe in what we call special purpose vehicles. Any political party they can get that gives them what they want. The day the political party is gone, they don't need it anymore, they discard it. That's why some people will join like 5 political parties in a year, and they're still going to join more if they have a chance. Nobody wants to build a political party that is ideologically built and grounded. And that's how political parties function. Even bad political parties in Europe and America were built over the years, and they have ideology. When they hate immigrants, they will tell you, they don't hide it. If they love immigrants, they'll tell you, they don't hide it. So I'm just giving that or those ones as examples that if you want political parties, you have to build political parties over time, and you must be consistent with it, and you must have the characteristics of a political party who looks directly at what the people want and what they want to do for the public, not all these political parties. Somebody's going to say I'm condemning them, but I can't stop myself from just, condemning all these guys who are so dishonest, because that's why we are where we are today. I think Mr. Sonny has left. I don't see him on his seat anymore, so I don't know who is going to help us.
I'm here. It's okay.
Okay.
I think we can go on to ask the next set of questions now from the next set of people. So, Sheye Obiseson. And after that, we have Sanusi Mekudi. Allah Sheye, unmute Sheye to ask his question. Okay, maybe he's not there. Unmute Sanusi Mekudi.
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, sir. If you are
Okay,
there.
I have been unmuted so I can speak. Yeah, good evening, Mr. Sowore. I really salute you on the courageous activities over the years, which makes me want to ask you directly. all these activities over the years, how has it really impacted democracy in Nigeria? And if it has, what can be done more to actually get the results that you want? And if it has not impacted, then what do you still have to do after all these courageous struggles over the years? Thank you.
Thank you for keeping it very short. Sanusi, could you go ahead with your question or comment?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by commending the organizers and the presenter for a job well done. My first comment is to thank Sowore for the good job he's doing for our fatherland, and to register my concurrence with most of the ideas he has canvassed. As far as I'm concerned, the Nigerian project is a tragedy when you consider the number of people in poverty, the number of children out of school, the spread of insecurity, in corruption on an industrial scale. And nothing short of a revolution can address the issue. But reading from history, revolutions are anchored on clear-cut ideology. I want Mr. Sowore to comment on what ideological anchor or framework is he hinging the advocacy for revolution in Nigeria. And let me go back a little. We all agree from the pro-democracy movement that we are to work from military to civilian rule and then to democracy. But the civilian rule is being more dictatorial, more corrupt, more incompetent, more unpatriotic than even the military. It's unfortunate if you look at the institutions and infrastructure that were built by the military, the so-called politicians are not living up to that. So after commending, I want the presenter to shed more light on what ideological framework is he advocating for Nigeria. Because of our diversity, multiplicity, pluralism, I believe we need to be clear about that so that everybody can key in, and we try to transform Nigeria where you can have social justice, good governance, etc., etc. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much I will take one more. Sowore, you will have to promise to come back, or maybe we'll do a part 2 of this. We have over 25 hands up or 30 hands. And I'm sure a lot of people really, really want to engage with you. And a lot of people are asking about this revolution and how it will be done. Maybe we are getting a bit interested. That's why more questions on that. But let me take Peter Akive, and then after that, you can take the questions. Peter, go ahead.
Pastor Sonny, can we also add Abubakar? He's had his hand up for a very long time.
Mute Peter. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to Comrade Sowore for this, for granting us this opportunity to interact with you. I will quickly go to my question, which is the Nigerian project. We all can agree. I think they've asked this question, though, but I just want to come from another way. We all agree that the state of the nation now is in a very terrible state. Having the 15th president, we have
did he disconnect?
I think we lost his audio.
Go ahead.
Okay.
people are in one camp, and then we are all scattered. You have your
Is Peter still there?
No, we lost his audio. Maybe he can put his comment in the chat. I don't know if you can take Abubakar.
Okay, go ahead with Abubakar. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Shore, I really respect the activism, the energy you possess. Over the years, I admire you, but there is one thing I want to ask here. Just like the last speaker talked, uh, we as the youth, we are experiencing so much, you know, with regards to insecurity, education, and what have you. I want you please to come up with a manifesto, something that will guide us, make us believe in you that we can deliver. Because it has been this, what you are saying now has been said by so many politicians in Nigeria. They have come and go, and yet there is no result. So we as a coalition of youths want you to please give us a manifesto of what you want to offer to this country, because believe me, in part of Zamfara, they are really doing a lot with insecurity. And these are the positions of bad governance in Nigeria. So what are you doing towards solving that issue? Thank you very much for having me. And I thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I can handle some of the questions.
Yes, please
Yes,
go
all
ahead,
right.
sir.
So the first question was if my activities over the years have really impacted democracy in Nigeria, and if not, what should be done and what more should be done. First, I want to answer that question by saying that one of the things I want people to keep staying away from when they talk about Nigeria, talk about themselves, is not to think that it is my job alone to make Nigeria better. We should be using the word we. What can we do? But in terms of my activities over the years, I can proudly say that even though I'm not a fan of the democracy we have, that I at least helped to bring about democratic rule, which was the goal of the pro-democracy movement in the 90s. And I achieved that. I have also successfully helped in some ways to have party-to-party electoral process that, my struggles have helped. But the question is not what I've achieved to be listed. What I ask myself is, why are we even counting achievement when we are not fully liberated, when we haven't achieved our yet? So to sit down here and say, I did this, well, there's a lot of things I've done, there's no question about it. But I don't want to keep discussing what I've done when we haven't reached our destination. And that's more important to me than, counting our eggs before they are hatched, if that's acceptable to the person who asked the question. And the question about the ideological anchor of a revolutionary, if Nigeria happens, what would be the ideological anchor? And I want to say for a plural society, a multi-ethnic society, that a revolution does not necessarily have to have a single ideological framework. Revolutions are so dynamic that what drives a revolution at the beginning may not even be what we decide what anchors. When we're done, is that the revolution must answer to the problems of society at that time and must analyze where the society wants to go and the vision of the system that would replace it. But one of the things I hear from Nigerians all the time is that, they want political liberation, they want a real constitutional government, they want civil liberties. But most importantly, also, that we must discuss the issue of transfer of political and economic power from the elites to the ordinary people, because one of our biggest problems is that the elite take the biggest chunk of our resources and the rest of us are just, scrounging. We're always trying to find what to eat, but some people have just too much to eat and they don't want to give up. And so I, in that regard, have had a particular ideological position stated clearly that we would have a whole lot of socialist decisions to be made, because we just can't continue to pretend that what belongs to all of us should be in the hands of a few. And whenever they like, they just say, okay, let's cede some of that. A revolution addresses fundamentally the needs of society at the time the revolution is happening and it evolves. So to tell you that there's one ideological framework for revolution in a country called Nigeria would even make people to start to say, well, maybe that's not the revolution I want because it doesn't give me religious freedom. It gives me economic freedom. It doesn't give me political freedom. So we have to all sit down after the revolution and decide the way forward because it must be guided by an ideology that is acceptable to all who participated in the revolution. Um, you know, somebody was asking me to give a manifesto. I have manifesto that you can find on the party's page, and our party's page is aacparty.org. And I also now have an app. It's called Sowore now. You can find it on iPhone, um, iOS version. The Android version is on its way. Then you read up on all the plans that we have for the country. Great plans, on how to revive electricity, how to bring about education to match up with modern day needs of our people, how to fix the infrastructure, and how generally to bring about new model of economic ideas that will drive prosperity and give our people a fresh lease of life. All of that has been properly discussed, synthesized, and you should get it from the website if you don't mind. So those are the questions I see. I think there's a question here that's not clear to me about the Nigerian project. Um, sometimes I'm worried about the use of the word Nigerian project because Nigeria is the only country that is discussed as a project. And when I hear project in Nigeria, I'm thinking about things that starts and don't get completed. But I think the answer for me is how we can transition Nigeria from a country that was founded on, all kinds of lies, falsehood, and unpreparedness to a nation that can satisfy the needs of its citizens. That's what I want to see happen. And I believe that with all of these ideas that we have put together, including, by the way, these great conversations we are having, because we are learning from ourselves, and if we can get all of you to join hands with us, this will be done, and we can have a nation that is not just a project, but a nation that has become a solid state that satisfied the political, constitutional, economic, cultural, and all needs of its people. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Is Pastor Sonny back? Okay, Pastor Sonny.
Yeah, I think we'll just be able to take a few more questions. Mr. Sowore, can we get a commitment that you will be back, if
Next
possible,
week.
next
Definitely,
week?
I think I told Pastor Tua already that I will be happy to come back. And I feel strongly that we need to be having this kind of
Yeah,
conversations that are not, not the ones that we're used to, because
yeah,
Nigerians are very echo chamber based when it comes to having conversations. Somebody will read a long distance, nobody asks questions, no exchange of ideas. He asks two questions that's already been pre-planned and he runs away. We don't see him again. But
that's true.
these digital spaces are very important for us to carry out the conversations that we need to have and the
Yeah,
plans that we need to implement for our country. These
yeah,
are unbelievable spaces that we should keep using. That's why I don't run away from them. I'd rather be here than go to a TV station where somebody is asking me questions that are irrelevant to my existence.
excellent, excellent. Thanks for that. So, maybe we'll confirm your calendar. If you are free next week, we'll see what will happen. Maybe we'll run a part 2
This week will
because
be
it's
tough.
obvious we can't.
If we can do in 2 weeks' time, because
Okay,
like I
in
told
two
you at
weeks'
the
time, great.
beginning of, I have a trial coming up next week.
Okay,
So,
maybe in 2 weeks' time, because please, all those that have their hands up that we might not be able to take, we want to apologize in advance because time is far gone. But let me just take 2 more or 3 more so that we can wrap up. Jumoke,
Michael, Igor, Michael, please go ahead. We'll take EA Foundation and then Omonua. Those are the 3 hands we'll take. And then I have a comment also for Sowore. Please go ahead, Michael. We've asked you to unmute, Michael. Okay.
Okay. Good evening, and Mr. Sowore, good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you for taking our time to be here. My question will be, I think there's a question that you were asked earlier and about the revolution, and I don't think you've done justice to that question, so I'll go back to that. We all understand the cynics have said that the revolution is about removing a dictator to replace with a worse dictator. And we've seen where revolutions have occurred in different parts of the world, how they have all ended up. Those who come with messianic who are supposed to come save the country. Excuse me, please. When we come in, and then when they come in, and then after some time, we could see even in Africa, do the Muammar Gaddafi's of this world and all that. Yes, it did a little bit of good here and there, but at the end of the day, we'll see how the revolution ended. So my question would be, why do we all run away from the basic problem that we have, which is Nigeria? Is there something that forbids us from discussing Nigeria? What I mean by discussing Nigeria, as it is today, Nigeria is not working. Must we remain Nigeria? Must we remain one country? Is there something that can be done?
Okay.
Can we go our separate ways if we have to? Can we
Okay.
go back to the regional lines if we have to? Must we be Nigeria? I know you talk about revolution. How do we save this country? So what can we do? Is this something that's forbidding us from having that conversation?
Okay. Thank you. EA Foundation, we've asked you to unmute. Please keep it to 1 minute so he can take the questions. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you all. Thank everyone. I want to say at this level, we have this way what going to do.
Can you speak up, please?
Yeah, hope you hear me now. Hello?
Yes. Mr. Sowore, can you hear him?
I can hear him, but it's muffled.
Okay. Okay. So can we have Mr. Omonuwa Omogo?
All right. You can hear me now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I want to thank Pastor Itwa for this platform. I'll be trying to join, but I'll be joining on through YouTube, and that's very nice. And I always wanted to contribute. And there was never a good or a better time than having Mr. Sowore here today. It's so sad that people, because in Nigeria, or as a black man, that monarchical system, like every time, for instance, from Edo State, you ain't going to compare Mr. Sowore with the governor I have presently. And I voted for Pastor Itwa's elder brother. And I knew what he did in that election. But all I can remember was I prayed for his brother. So what am I trying to say is, I'm supposed to be a pastor, labeled. That's the label. But I choose not to do that. Because it limits, the religious body right now, they do is pray. That's what they talk about. They are partisan, but they act like they are not partisan. And they weaken the people who want to participate. When the pastor comes and says, oh, let's pray. Now, if you check Islam is powerful, is running Africa right now because of they focus more on nation, fight for jihad, fight for Islam. But in the South, all the pastors say whenever there's the time for us to take action, all you hear is pray. And even the Bible said, pray and walk. So Sowore is living a life that, for instance, I'm aligning with him. I registered for AAC, not because of him, because I asked myself, if I'm a president, what am I going to do? Number one, I'm going to make education free, which is in his manifesto. I'm going to make sure that we have housing.
That's all the problem Nigeria has. Yeah.
Sorry, so you're going to think from what am I going to do? And when you think about what you're going to do, they look at the manifesto of each parties or each candidate, which one align with you. So it's not Sowore. If Sowore is something I post to him tomorrow, does that mean my ideology is going to go? So it's not him. He's just trying to, he's living his dream. He's working from his heart. You can see he's not profiting. going to jail at his age. He's no longer a young man, you know. So the point is, we're talking about this article. Is a psychological blockage. You know, it's a slave mentality. Like we are forced to choose these guys, even when we know that these guys are not the right guy. We can't think above. We can't think beyond. And like we have the guy here. You know, even Jesus Christ came here. He told all of us, follow me, follow me. People didn't. You know, so I'm not surprised that a time will come, Sowore will be on our Naira bill. I'm sure the name would have changed then. What we need to do is let's go back history. We need to go and vet these guys that are in our airport, these guys in our Naira note. Let us check what did they really stand for? Because the history they're telling us is not correct. For instance, in the Caribbean presently, the books I've read, my wife is a Caribbean, about Africa, about slavery. If you know all these kings we are seeing every day, we'll stone them, we'll chase them away. How they participated in a slavery, how they were selling blacks over here. But in Nigeria, history has been removed from the curriculum. So there are some things we are supposed to fight for. It's not about Sowore, it's not about I joined the party
Okay.
because I want to, like, you know,
Can you round
just
up for us, sir, please?
yeah, thank you. But you know, a question. I'm not like trying to encourage everyone to participate. You know, we're only going to live once.
Thank you very much. We'll take Mr. Monua and then Mr. Shure would have you address all those, please.
Mr. Sowore, I'm Jojo Mogun from Choice Security. I live in New York. I know what you have done here. Even I see you sometime in on the news. I read about you. Those things are not new. I remember when you called at Booker Restaurant in Fulton Street in New York with Roberto. I was part of that meeting when you host Roberto. That time he was in exile in Washington, D.C. You know me very well, but you'll be doing this, and I'm so proud of you. The reason I came into this meeting today, when I see you, the platform you form, I'm still there. It's not active. What I want to tell you is that please still reach out to that platform. I know you are in Nigeria. I always watch. I talk well about you, and just keep the flag going. Even Aswen Odalo, I was the DG who did this campaign in New York City. But it's unfortunately the same bad government took it. But it's okay. But we are just watching. I think one day, my brother, just keep going. And I'm glad that Pastor Itwa, the brother, is the one who called this. I thank you, Pastor Itwa, for all you'll be doing. I'm an activist here in America. Thank you so much. I'm still with you, sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you respond to all those comments, please?
Thank you. There was 3 people, but mostly 2 comments. Thank you for your kind words. And the only question that there are 2 questions left. And the question about a revolution, where revolution is bringing in bad people, and I want to respond to that person that there's been a lot of revolutions in the world. The US is a product of a revolution. France is a product of a revolution. There's a revolution in Russia, China, all kinds of revolution. There's been a revolution that, yes, you're right, about dictators like Ferdinand Marcos in the Philippines. You've had Romania in 89 that removed Ceausescu. So, but what we must keep asking ourselves, and this is very important, is that when should the revolution happen? And why I always call for revolution in Nigeria is that when you get to a point of serious economic inequality, almost sinful in economic inequality, when you get to political exclusion and authoritarian rule, which is where we are corruption and the abuse of power with impunity, and you have been able to organize yourself, which is still what is missing now. We have not been able to get to that point where we organize as a popular mobilization of people to say, look, this is a vision for change. And then lastly, there has to be a mass uprising. Very, very quick, direct mass uprising. You may not agree with me now, but someday you're going to have to agree with me. And then you can then turn the corner and get to that place that you've always all been looking for. The interesting thing is that most of you who are here, I won't say all of you, are probably enjoying in countries where there have been revolutions. So why, what are we waiting for? What? Fear is the only thing I see here. And then there was this question about we should discuss why do we run away from talking about Nigeria? Must we remain a country? You're talking to a person who has always said it that there's no topic I don't discuss. None. And you probably don't know, but I'll tell you that I one of my recent activities that had major participation was going to Aba to fight for Nnamdi Kanu's release. And that's a taboo topic as far as Nigeria is concerned, because I want to discuss, I want to place everything on the table. But having said that, you see, the easiest thing is to break up Nigeria, but it's also not easy. You can't even break up Nigeria without a revolution, without some kind of mass uprising. And the people who are trying to do that, you see what they're doing to them. They're not even doing it here, they're just discussing it. Whatever Nigeria should be, I believe, after the revolution, we can define, because the revolution can also be so dynamic that after it is done, we say to ourselves, look, we've had a great time together. We're going to keep going. But if anyone wants to leave, here's a referendum in our constitution that says you can leave as long as certain conditions are met so that we can define boundaries. But just to say, oh, must we be together? Of course, nobody wants to. Most of us are no longer even in Nigeria anymore. Like I used to say, and I keep saying, a lot of Nigerians are mentally seceded from Nigeria. They're just here, but they're gone. They don't think Nigeria, they don't believe in this country anymore. Most of them are just trapped here. If somebody opens a gate to the rest of the world to just say you can leave, I don't know who will be left in Nigeria. Not many people will be left. I'll probably stay back because I know when you go, you'll soon be back too. You'll be back. But let's stay here and just make this happen once and for all. I want to thank the organizers, the moderators of today's event. I believe we've come to a place where we can say good evening or good night or good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are.
Before you close, Sowore, I have my
Yes.
comments.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
No,
please.
thank you so much. I want to
Because
also
I'm looking at
stand
time
with.
at 7 p.m. I've
Yes,
already
I know
committed to
we are going to be
7 p.m.
closing now, but
Yeah,
I can't leave without asking you this question or
go ahead.
actually lending my voice to all those that have applauded your courage, your relentless effort in standing for truth and power. And I'm just hoping it's an injection that every night or vaccination that every Nigerian can take, that we arise and stand for truth and power and lay our lives down for the good of the community. So thank you very much. I really, really do applaud you. I know you've been on this journey for many, many years and everything you've gone through. So I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Um, we're hoping you come back in 2 weeks. So when you come back in 2 weeks, can you lay out for us your plan to recover Nigeria, because Nigeria is in coma or even on life support right now, whether it's how you're going to address insecurity, how you're going to address the judicial system, those major plagues that have held us captive. It would be good for us to hear how you're going to do that. And the second question I have is, how do we mobilize Nigerians to stand behind this ideology that anybody who has the interest of the country at heart, that is qualified, can can vie for election or vie for presidency? And it's not about money, it's not about connection. That would be something that I believe we need, because we have a lot of youths on this platform. They are not the
Yes.
leaders of tomorrow, they're the leaders of today. So if you could take all those, and then when you come in 2 weeks, so we have you committed to coming in 2 weeks now, right?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I applaud you also for putting this together, and I thank you for giving me homework. And I promise to be back in 2 weeks' time to answer to the best of my ability. Of course, how it will sound will depend on those who are listening. But like I said, part of what I love about this kind of interaction is not a one-way traffic, right? I'm speaking to what I know, and I'm also hearing from people who probably know better than me. It's part of the reason where when Nigerians, why don't you go and be a senator? So the person who is asking you to go and do something lower can also, most of the people on this platform here, 245 is where we are. It was about 300.
We have over 300.
Yes, yes. If we do a poll here, you can find at least 10 people who can govern Nigeria. I'm not saying better than it because these guys don't even govern, who can govern Nigeria very well, if not more. Amongst your platform here, there are people who are successful. They've run companies, they're engineers, they are doctors, lawyers at home and abroad, they're successful people. But those people, we have scared them away from the country. Even the ones that are in the country, we have scared them away because we have constricted the space for doing good. So anybody wants to do good, just I don't want to be part of it too. And then you then leave the space for some of the, I don't know, the rarest dregs of humans. I don't think I can even call some of them human beings. I'm sorry, because somebody has already complained that I'm condemning them too much. But this country is governed by dregs, dregs, dregs. And for me, it's not just that I'm here talking about these things. I'm speaking to you about my lived experience. I am one of the people up to tomorrow have to stand in front of a bad judge, like a really terrible judge. And I'll sit there and I'm like, am I in Nigeria? When the judge turns, I'm the one who have to deal with some of the most wicked policemen in this country. They beat the hell out of me. I'm the one who have to interact with one of the worst DSS people. You get my point. So I'm interfacing with some of the worst. You people don't have to deal with them. I have to deal with them on a daily basis because they're trying to kill me. They're trying to run me down. They're always bringing charges against me. And for them to bring a charge against you, they have been planning for weeks and months. And they have considered, should we kill him? Should we charge him? Should we kill him? Should we? So we are talking about the person who has lived. This is lived experience that I've had, and I can't wait for this system to be, completely overturned and for a better system to come so that we can all enjoy our lives. It's not even about the countries. Even the space that you've chosen in this country, you deserve to enjoy. You deserve to send your children to school and expect that they will be back home without some guy, crazy guy walking into the school and just picking them as if they're chicken or eggs. And you can't find a policeman who can even run after and say, hey, drop it. Those are the little things, that I even think we should, and then we start thinking about, the bigger issues. And I'm here to talk about it, and I'll be happy to rejoin you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you so much, Jumake, for your comments and questions. And thank you, everyone who have joined us. It's not my duty to give the vote of thanks, but I just
But
have to go to my next meeting. You permit.
thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate you here. And apologies to everyone who had their hand up that we couldn't take Sowore. We'll be back in 2 weeks. So I've noted those that have their hands up. We'll take you first. Again, Sowore, thank you so very much. Pastor had to step away for another meeting, but I'm sure he'll be following up with you very soon. And we look forward to having you next week with an action plan of how we're going to wrestle Nigeria out of the hands
Thank you.
of.
In
So
2
thank
weeks'
you so
time.
much. In 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Thank you.
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks time.
All right.
2 weeks time.
Thank you so much.
Your
Thank you.
Excellency. In Nigeria, when you declare, they start calling you Your Excellency. So well done. Thank you very much, everyone. Have we disabled? Yeah, I can see a lot of
Let me
thumbs up.
disable. Let me do that now. YouTube.